I saw
Today, Usain Bolt lost at the Worlds. The Dodgers chance at the Worlds. And also, check this out.
no more cleats. I'm moving on to smoke meats.
That's how Vince Wilfork retired from the NFL. No more cleats, moving on to smoke meat. I love it. Let's go around the horn. I mean, it might be the best retirement ever. Dancing in Oval is the best retirement ever.
It's Around the Horn, the show of competitive better. Here's Tony Reali.
Hashtag ad. All right, let's start with the biggest sports news in the world this week. Usain Bolt losing in his last race ever. I mean, you can't even believe you're seeing it when it's happening. He finished third. Justin Gatlin was partially booed before the race, after the win, and even when he got his medal. And Jesse Washington of The Undefeated with this headline: with one race, the life stories of Gatlin and Bolt have changed. Kind of want to know what a national panel thinks of that. Let's start with you, Tim Kalisha. Do you see Usain Bolt losing this weekend changing the way you evaluate his career?
Well, yeah, I think it has to, because if you've never seen something before and you just kind of assumed this aura of invincibility about him, it's like, you know, we never thought we'd see Muhammad Ali lose, and he loses to Joe Frazier. Sugar Ray Leonard loses to Roberto Duran. They had a chance to reestablish their greatness. Usain Bolt won't, because we presume he's going to stick with his plans to retire. It doesn't change the fact he's the greatest sprinter of all time, but we thought we would never see him lose. We've seen him always, after 20 yards, he's way behind. After 50 yards, he's still behind. And then he just blows by the field. And this time, he got up to the field, and he got right up to Gatlin, but he couldn't quite finish the deal.
You brought up Muhammad Ali, though. His career ended with a whole lot of losses, too. The likes of Trevor Berbick. So could this not be that case for Usain Bolt? Let's turn to Frank Isola here. He lost. It's shocking. It's stunning. Are you going to remember that when you think of Usain Bolt in the future?
It is shocking, because we're used to seeing Usain Bolt so far ahead of the field that he's looking behind him. Kind of like me on this show, as opposed to seeing guys and in some cases even ahead of him. But I'm not buying this. It changes the story. If you look, we all look at track and field, much like gymnastics, swimming, as at the Olympics. So if he had lost maybe the gold medal at the Olympics, to me that's a little bit different. I understand the Worlds is a big deal, but I think for the vast majority of the public, it's all about the Olympics. Now, Sports Illustrated has an excuse to give LeBron Sportsman of the Year again, like they did last year, when it should have been Usain Bolt, by the way.
That's
what I have to say.
Jackie McMullen.
Well, here's how it changes my view of Usain Bolt. You start to realize we've taken him for granted. So that 9.58 was 8 years ago. 8 years ago. And now in every story you read today, you're going to hear about Usain Bolt's bulky back. Do you remember hearing about Usain Bolt's bulky back before this exact moment? No, because he dominated the field. The other thing is, we talk about the lives of Gatlin and Bolt changing. How about Coleman, 21 years old, who finished his second in this race, and maybe the next great sprinter that we're going to see going forward, because he's just beginning here.
Can you address the Gatlin of it a little bit, Jackie, since you brought up Justin Gatlin? I mean, he won his world championship here. He finally bested Bolt, which his whole career has been about. He's 4.5 years older than Bolt, but he had that steroid bust 11 years ago, and that's what those boos were about. That's what the boos were about in Rio. That's what they were about this weekend. Was that fair?
Well, I don't think so. It's been over a decade that he's been proven to be clean. And, you know, like anything, the sport of running, who do we know is clean and who isn't? Some people just get lucky and never get caught.
Ramona, first on Bolt, and then you can address the Gatlin of it.
Well, look, to me, Usain Bolt is like one of the greatest athletes ever, and maybe of my generation that I've ever seen. And I don't want to see him run anymore. I want to remember him the way he was and all his greatness over those Olympic Games. I mean, the first time I ever saw him was in Beijing, 2008, and he goes 9.69 in the Olympic final. I remember being on a bus and going through Beijing, and people on the bus were like watching this on the TV there, and it was just unbelievable. He ran 9.95. In his last race. I mean, that's the slowest he's run in any world or Olympic champion final ever. I mean, that's not even, his previous slowest was 9.81. So I don't want to see him do that anymore. I just want to remember Bolt as Bolt. And I don't think it really changes anything on the narrative if this really was his last race, because we all remember how great he was.
The Gatlin side of it, fair to boo a guy who had it, who was a drug bust 11 years ago.
He's never owned it. I mean, that's the thing about Gatlin is his drug test came 11 years ago during that era when that was the predominant storyline in track and field and in cycling, and he's never really owned it. He said he sort of blamed it on his trainer.
Frank?
Well, I also think, Tony, I think some of the crowd is probably booing because they wanted to see Usain Bolt win. And I thought Gatling, the way that he handled it, was very classy when he kind of bowed down to Usain Bolt. But I think, Jackie mentioned the back. His training hadn't been the same. So it finally caught up to him. To me, it was like watching, Buster Douglas knock down Mike Tyson. You had never seen anything like that before. It's shocking, but it happens to all the great ones.
So Ramona says she never wants to see Bolt race again, but she wants to remember him at his peak. He's a global superstar and personality. What's next for him, Tim? And could he come back? This is always the case
that's
with
hard
these
because you kind of want to see him, but you only want to see him win. You don't want to see him come back and lose. You don't want that option to be out there. I don't think he will, though. I mean, he knows. Look at the times. Look at when he broke the world record, and look how the times have gotten slower, even while he was winning. I think he knows he's not getting back to that level.
Jackie McMullen.
Okay, but Michael Jordan knew he wasn't going to get back to that level, and he still put on the uniform of the Washington Wizards.
Yeah, that was a great idea.
Can't
That worked
help
well.
themselves. So maybe he should maybe he should race a cheetah on land, or maybe a shark on land. Maybe that's the idea.
He'll race one more time because the relays are next week. It was a great week.
His dream is to play for Manchester United.
Bowie winning for USA and in the women's 100, and that was an incredible race that came down to the line, and her impeccable lean, she fell to the track at the end of it. Good stuff from the track. We'll move on. Let's talk football now. Cutler to Miami. If you look over the stats at their last 16 games, Cutler, Tannehill, kind of the same. His other assets and liabilities, well known throughout his 11-year career. And how Cutler and how Miami was today's intro. He was giving Cutler face, and then you have an AARP sponsorship behind. Here's the fact, national panel. If you need a quarterback in August, there are no perfect options. So what's fair expectations for Cutler and the Dolphins, Frank?
Well, I think they were a playoff team last year, and I think Adam Gase is hoping that with Jay Cutler he can replicate what he did a couple of years ago, 24 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and can give that to the Miami Dolphins, manage the game, and then you can get to the playoffs. What I like about it, the coach is putting a lot of pressure on himself to get this done. Remember Jay Cutler coming off a shoulder injury, number one, and right around, January, February, we were hearing stuff about how he didn't know if he had the motivation, whether he wanted to play. $10 million, I get it. It changes it, but it puts the quarterback and the head coach, puts a lot of pressure on him. What else is new in the NFL?
Yeah, true. We weren't just hearing that the motivation was somewhere in between. That's exactly what Cutler said in his retirement announcement. Go ahead, Jackie McMullen.
So $10 million to do what here? To have the team make the playoffs. How much better is he than Matt Moore? And when you're in that division, what is your single goal to beat the New England Patriots, right? So I got some numbers for you. Okay, Cutler, 0-3 lifetime against the Patriots. 4 TDs, 5 interceptions, QB rating of 70.5, outscored 128-37. Matt Moore, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, QB rating of 91.6, 0-3 against the Patriots. That's what you paid $10 million for, okay?
For basically the same result, 0-3. That was an incredible amount of information. You went to the glasses like Kornheiser. You read off the stats. But can you almost, if the Dolphins, are you still looking at the Patriots here? Or are you just looking at the rest of the conference, Ramona Shelburne, and saying, you know what, this is a year we think we can make the playoffs. Let's go for Cutler.
Yeah, he's 5-2 against the Jets and the Bills. I mean, if you're just trying to get into the playoffs, if you're just trying to get in the AFC, he's doing okay.
Jackie, settle down.
I mean, look, this gives the Dolphins some hope. Okay, I don't know if it's false hope or if it's good hope. But $10 million sounds like a lot of money to all of us, but he's actually there's only 2 starting quarterbacks who make less than Jay Cutler.
I don't think any fan at home is worried about how much the quarterbacks are making. They just want their team to win. Kalisha, you have a view of this?
It's a strange move, and Frank's right. Adam Gase is putting a lot on the line. Frank's wrong about the Sportsman of the Year. That's Roger Federer. We'll put that over here. He's right about the part that Adam Gase is saying, yeah, I know this guy. We're going to go back to the playoffs with him. I don't think he's better than Matt Moore. I don't think the team is going to think he's better than Matt Moore. They have to play him because you're not going to pay him $10 million to sit behind Matt Moore.
Exactly, that's word after the horn.
Yeah, and if you from a cap standpoint, that's $10 million now that you don't have. And wouldn't it have been better to get a cost-effective backup for Matt Moore so you do have protection? Because Matt Moore is nuts and takes some of the biggest hits I've ever seen.
Maybe this is their backup then. Maybe they're splitting reps. Maybe.
Well, I can't imagine.
How many wins for the Dolphins this year? They had 10 last year. Just shout out a number, Jackie.
7.
8.
Frank?
I'm going to go with 8. Jackie, what's Eli Manning's record against the Patriots since you got all those records?
Oh, I sold
Touché,
her.
my friend.
Oh.
8. Let's go with 8.
I don't need to hear from anybody else. That is how you do it. We're moving on. Baseball now. And how the Dodgers are making a run at the greatest season ever. Man, I spit up all over the place. 79-32 paces out for 115 wins. One better than your 98 Yankees, Frank. And one behind the 0-1 Seattle Mariners. Here's what the Dodgers' chances of winning the World Series look like, according to Fangraphs. Oh. That's about baseball, of course. We all know that. So let's ask this question, National Panel. Ramona, are the Dodgers headed for an all-time baseball season? And should they be thinking about what happened with the Warriors' all-time basketball season?
Like, you only get an all-time baseball season if you go on and win the World Series. And they haven't done that since '88. I was like 9 years old. I was just a little Momo at that time. Okay? It has been such a long time in Los Angeles for the Dodgers that it's like, I saw it a couple years ago, they went 42-8. So they're just one better than they were a couple years ago when they lost in the playoffs again. So I think they know it. They feel it. All the players do too. It's an incredible run that they're on. They're 70-21 since Cody Bellinger was called up. And I think that really is the galvanizing force. They got this rookie who they were hoping would be great, and he is.
Kalish Shaw.
The mere fact that this great run they're on is right behind a Seattle Mariners team that a lot of knowledgeable baseball fans don't remember at all because they didn't get to the World Series tells you that none of it matters. The only thing the Dodgers have to worry about is one left-handed pitcher and getting him healthy for October. And if they can take care of that, then they have a great chance to go ahead and win. Nothing else matters.
Well, I mean, they shouldn't have to apologize for having a great season. And now what helps them out a little bit is this 10-day disabled list where you can kind of play around with it a little bit and maybe put a guy on there and stretch out their start. So I think they'll try to do that with their pitching staff. But here's the issue. If Golden State had to play teams like the Nationals and the Chicago Cubs, it's a much tougher road in baseball just to get to a World Series. So that's why the Dodgers know it's very difficult. Multiple layers make it much harder to win a World Series.
We brought up the Warriors season 2 years ago. Jackie, you'd be expert to talk about that. But also the Patriots, who were undefeated regular season a decade ago, and that didn't end in a title either. Please.
No, it didn't. Tyree Helmet, and that's where Frank's Eli Manning comes in. And I can tell you, I've talked to many of those players, and that's not a season that they want to remember because if you don't win a championship, it goes for naught. It doesn't mean anything to the coaches and the players. Now, later when they retire, they can brag about it a little bit, but that's not where you want to be. And with the Dodgers, the interesting thing to me is they have this great rotation when Kershaw's healthy. Now they've added Darvish, they've got Wood, they've got Rich Hill, but that actually works against you in the postseason, Tony, because you got to shorten those starters. And who's going to go to the bullpen? Who's not going to get the start? I wonder how they handle all that.
Sometimes those are good problems to have. Last word, Shelburne.
Yeah, you mentioned Clayton Kershaw. He's out. They're doing all this without Clayton Kershaw. When he comes back, he's the guy that needs to
But when you look at this team on paper, right now, are you viewing it like an all-time team? I guess that's the question I'm asking you. You don't remember the Mariners team, Tim, okay.
I am.
But you remember the Yankees team in '98? You are? Okay, good.
Come on, you have to.
When I look at this panel, I'm looking at like an all-time panel right now. Look at those scores. We're taking a break. Buy yourselves next.
Look at those scores.
If you don't know who your quarterback is in August, you might not have one. All reporting from Denver, including a swashbuckling blackboard wordman. No answers. Trevor Siemian, Paxton Lynch, uninspiring. Ramona, buy or sell the Broncos entering another season without a certain QB1?
I think they can keep winning, so I guess I'm buying it that their defense is that good. But this is where Tony Romo would have come in handy. I don't know why they couldn't convince him to go lead this team and go try to win a Super Bowl, but they clearly need to make a decision. They probably should just give the job to Trevor Siemian and empower him for another year.
Kalish Shaw?
Yeah, I'm buying, sticking with Siemian and not rushing into the decision to go with Paxton Lynch. I know they want it to be Paxton Lynch. You always want your first-round pick, but when teams force that and when they give guys jobs that they haven't earned, the players know it, and it never goes well.
Isola?
Yeah, from all indications, Trevor Siemian has been the more impressive one in training camp. And it's tough for Paxton Lynch because we know that John Elway somehow wants him to be the starter because he did draft him. They did the right thing to kick the tires on Tony Romo, but unfortunately when you do that, it hurts him, and he wanted no part of playing. That would have been the right choice.
Yeah, Ice has got some heat today. McMullen, how about you?
Yeah, this isn't an ideal situation, and the defenses we were talking about in Peyton Manning's last year, that was the #1 overall ranked defense. Last year, I think they were the #4 overall ranked defense. Here's the problem. The offense, 27th. That's not going to get it done. They didn't make the playoffs last year, Ramona, with that defense.
Yeah, Ramona, you said keep on winning. They didn't make the playoffs last year, and they were behind Oakland. Settle down, Kalish. Man, look how competitive Tim is. He's just trying to get into that position to get the showdown. He's trying to throw some barbs. We'll move on. If your quarterback is telling you his concussions is none of your business, you might get Bob Lee on the case. The hell it isn't, Tom Brady. With enhanced protocols that the league's greatest ever quarterback may have had concussions despite never being listed as such on an injury report is news. Gotta love Bob. Jackie, you buy or sell Brady's response here that it's none of anybody's business whether he had a concussion or not?
Well, I buy Bob Lee, and I don't buy that part of Tom Brady's response, but I'm not exactly sure what we thought he was going to say. If he said, yep, you're right, I did have a concussion, he's got to deal with the ire of Bill Belichick, who, remember, kept to concuss Julian Edelman on the field when they won a Super Bowl. If he says, no, I didn't have a concussion, he's got to go home to his wife, and she's going to say, honey, why did you make me look out to be a liar? So he gave a non-answer, which is exactly what I would have expected.
Ramona Shelburne?
Well, look, this is an opportunity for Tom Brady as the most recognizable face in the NFL to say that I care about the wider NFL and the rest of the players there. So, it's none of our business. We don't have to know. It's the team's responsibility to report that on the medical report. But Tom had an opportunity to make a difference beyond himself, and yet again, he doesn't do that.
Kalisha?
Yeah, I do buy Bob Lee in general. I'm not going to buy his remarks here. I really don't look at it that way, and I know what he's saying, but I just don't think it is other people's business beyond what the league and the Patriots may have an issue of whether they're keeping stuff off of reports. But there's also, I mean, what exactly is a concussion? Did he get hit in the head? Was it, how mild was it? We just don't know.
Wow, Tim, I'm surprised to hear you say that after the science and the history that we have covering concussions, even just in the last 5 years of the NFL. Isola, you want to respond to that?
Well, it absolutely is none of our business. However, Giselle made it our business by saying in an interview that Tom has had concussion-like symptoms a couple of times over his career. That makes it fair game to ask. Sorry, Tom, but it's going to be asked, and you might have to give a better answer than saying it's none of your business.
Then can I go back to you here for a second?
Yeah,
expand on what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying guys are going to play when they're a little bit hurt, and you're not going to be able to stop that unless you can see it. And I don't know if Brady did that. And Jackie made the excellent point that he was in a position he couldn't say it didn't happen. He would have to go to his wife. But I think it's silly to think every concussion is now seen by these observers, and that
that's a fair
clean
point.
up the game that way.
In the Brady case, he's got this line of health goods and benefits that are going to change people's lives. He's not even eating tomatoes because they're too inflammatory.
Or strawberries.
Or strawberries, but he's not addressing this. We'll move on. Buyer still 3, NFL banning the bow and arrow celebration. Josh Norman says it singles him out. Did any of you know he did a bow and arrow? There are plenty who do bow and arrows. Frank, buy or sell?
Yeah, come on. I'm sorry. It's completely harmless. What's the big deal? Some team is going to lose when they have a penalty because it's of a celebration that the league doesn't deem is worthy.
We had that with Cleveland last year. I think it was Terrell Pryor was reacting to something. The Browns lost the game early in the season. McMullen, how about you?
Josh Norman made the best point of all. If you can fire off a musket after a touchdown and fire off a cannon, why is an imaginary bow and arrow more dangerous than that? Are you kidding me?
Shelburne?
Yeah, it's very clearly targeting him, and I think it's because he's a big star and they're still trying to make a point that you can't just do anything, even though they have relaxed some of the celebration rules.
Kalisha.
I sell the idea that the league has figured this out. They still haven't. They won't let Zeke jump in the Salvation Army kettle. They won't let people fire off bow and arrows. The fun things are still left out of the game.
Wow, mutual destruction. Kalisha was going after Shelburne there, and in the end, the points she lost.
Like Usain Bolt getting, Justin Gatlin got me there.
I sold a McMullen showdown next. I sold a McMullen showdown. Check this out. Dayton Dragon, Jose Siri on a 39-game hit streak. Needs a hit in the 8th for 40, a pitch behind him, a couple of other pitches not even close. He's walked by the Great Lake Loons. And that wasn't the end of it because benches cleared afterwards. Frank, who are you blaming for this ruckus?
It's total Bush League throwing behind the batter like that. You know what? How would you like it if it were your teammate on a hitting streak like that? Give him a chance to hit a pitch. I'm not saying you have to groove one down the plate, but come on.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. I always loved Nelly, but one of the things I hated was that time when he tried to keep Dana Barros from getting the three-pointer and double and triple teamed him in the game. Yeah, well, you're not going to get points for that, Frank. Sorry.
Neither are you. Why do you have to make this about the NBA? Both of you guys. Oh, let's have a conversation about the NBA. The day before, there was a 3 home run guy who didn't get a chance.
It was an apt example, Anthony.
She brought it up.
We're moving on. Showdown 2. Listen to this. Happy trails, Vince Wilfork.
I'm moving on to smoke
Retiring with the video advertisement for Kingsford Charcoal, okay? So he's retiring, but he's, having some fun with it. Better career, better retirement, and answer this, Jackie. Vince Wilfork, a Hall of Famer?
He really is. 2 first-team All-Pros, I think 2 or 3 second-team All-Pro, but you'll never see the statistics because of the way the defense was aligned. He'll never get any of the credit for it because they didn't get a lot of sacks. He wasn't designed to.
Borderline. But I will say this, he might have a career outside of football because he's pretty funny, pretty good dancer, and now he's got something he could connect everybody with.
Why couldn't he be the next George Foreman with grills is what I'm thinking. Nice soul. Take the FaceTime.
All right, folks. As everybody knows, it's been an unbelievable baseball season, but obviously some sad news over the weekend with the passing of both Don Baylor and Darren Daulton. Don Baylor was an AL MVP who got to win a World Series, by the way, with the Twins in '87. 10 years later, Darren Daulton, known for playing for those great Philadelphia Philly teams, won a World Series with the Marlins. But all our best and our prayers to both their families, Don Baylor and Darren Daulton.
Yeah, 2 great ones. Love Don Baylor.
Thanks for the win today. All right, that's going to do it, folks, on a 23-and-a-half-hour break. See you tomorrow around the horn. Who could have seen Frank winning today?